And you'll be able to see that 1 week later on Grandstand, that Sunday, May the 28th. We're staying with motorsport now. Coming up, we've got rallying, but first let's take a check on news elsewhere. Starting with the European Grand Prix, where Ferrari's Michael Schumacher has claimed his 4th win of the season. World champion Mika Häkkinen was 2nd, and he was followed home by McLaren teammate David Coulthard. Rubens Barrichello was 4th, and Giancarlo Fisichella picked up his first points for Benetton since Brazil. Jenson Button and Johnny Herbert were given 10th and 11th places, and Jaguar's Eddie Irvine retired on lap 29. In the Drivers' Championship, Schumacher has extended his lead at the top to 18 points following that win. Last year's champion Mika Häkkinen loses ground in 2nd. David Coulthard's 4th consecutive podium finish keeps him in 3rd, ahead of Schumacher's Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello. There's no change in the lower reaches of the leaderboard. We're now to cricket and news from Lords, the first test between England and Zimbabwe. It rained throughout the morning session. Play did get underway shortly after lunch. And as you can see, England are on their way to victory. Zimbabwe in their 2nd innings are currently 101 for 9, 2 wickets apiece today for Caddick and Giddings. Providing the weather holds there today, a win is surely not far away for England. But here on Grandstand, it's round 6 of the World Rally Championship. After a month's break and a change of continent, the teams headed out for an event that's a stern test for the drivers. It is the spectacular Rally of Argentina.
It's been 5 weeks since Colin McRae won round 5 of the World Rally Championship, the Rally Catalunya in Spain. And for round 6, we've come to another Spanish-speaking country, but this time we've crossed the Atlantic. The Rally Argentina has never been won by a British driver, but results so far this season suggest that this could be the year in which it finally happens. However, for the last 4 years, one man has won this rally on no fewer than 3 occasions, and so he knows better than most exactly what it takes to win in South America.
It is very difficult because sometimes stages they are fast and wide, and some stages very narrow and slow, tight corners, a lot. And to find combination between both of these, it's very difficult to find it.
That 5-week break saw Tommy take full advantage of the chance of a holiday in Finnish Lapland and a rather different mode of transport from his Mitsubishi Lancer.
Richard Burns, on the other hand, chose to stay at home and popped up the road from his Oxfordshire base to Silverstone to try his hand at Porsche racing. The only trouble is, he forgot to account for the fact that in circuit racing, the scenery moves. By rallying standards, it was probably a pretty mundane accident. I mean, look, no trees. But the crowd enjoyed it.
I know Tommy's been off skidooing, Richard's been competing in Porsche Super Cups and whatever.
Oh, Richard was trying to compete in Porsche Super Cup. He didn't get very far, did he?
But Burns, narrowly beaten by McRae in Spain, had another score to settle. Last year's Rally Argentina saw Richard's teammate Juha Kankkunen snatch victory on the last stage, despite team orders to the contrary. Richard, after what happened here last year, is this an event you particularly want to win? Is this a box you have to tick?
It's an event that I would like to win, obviously, not just because of what happened last year, but also because we're in a good position in the championship now, and it seems to me that the best thing I can do is still try to win the rallies, because if we have an advantage with the car, then we have to make the most of it. Having said that, the chances are that the other teams have been working very hard as well over the last 4 or 5 weeks. They know that they were at a bit of a disadvantage in Portugal, so they'll be looking at every single area to try and improve, and we'll have to see how much progress they've made.
I enjoy it very much, but it's, you know, as you say, it hasn't been that kind. It's a very dangerous event, it's quite tricky in places and very easy to damage wheels and suspension. Yeah, obviously I would love to do it, especially after Spain, and it would be great to get another win here.
I like this rally. Only problem is I have been only once here, and it's 3 years ago, so can be a little bit difficult to fight for a victory, but good position that is my aim.
While the top men dreamed of victory, Hyundai simply hoped for their first championship points.
The car is coming better, but for me it just seems to be not going so well on the rally, but better in tests. So we're working as hard as we can. The boys are working hard. We're getting better. So hopefully here we can have a clean run.
It wouldn't be a smooth run though, as the Argentinian stages are renowned for their roughness. Even if the event did start on a balmy Thursday evening in the northern lakeside resort of Villa Carlos Paz, 20 miles to the west of the Cordoba Rally HQ. There will be just 2 runs through a brand new super special stage that evening, and all eyes were on championship leaders Richard Burns and Robert Reid as they led the crews off the start ramp under the watchful gaze of the world's press. TOMMI MAKINEN lay 9 points behind the young Englishman, hoping to pick up 10 for a win, but he had fellow Finn Marcus GRONHOLM breathing down his neck, just 1 point adrift in the Peugeot 206. 70,000 fans turned out to watch the action, and they weren't to be disappointed.
The remainder of leg 1, 7 stages, took the crews to the north of Villa Carlos Paz and saw them restart at the fairly leisurely hour of 7:30. Mist hung in the valleys, a glorious start to the day, but the clouds were gathering. It would at least remain dry, however. Stage 3 was the first proper stage of the event, and it was the Peugeot of Marcus GRONHOLM which set the quickest time, elevating the Finn into the lead. He'd still head the leaderboard after stage 4, lucky to escape unscathed after a slight indiscretion. Richard Burns was quickest on both stages 1 and 2 around the Super Special, but slipped to 4th place after stage 3. The next, however, again saw the Subaru set the quickest time, and so Richard could head for the service area at La Cumbre in 2nd place, just under 9 seconds behind the Peugeot. One of several drivers slowed by dust, Colin McRae would be 5th, a further 12 seconds in arrears. He was then also handicapped by a 10-second road penalty. The other focus, that of Carlos Sainz, was in 3rd place, a little under 5 seconds behind Burns. TOMMI MAKINEN's Mitsubishi was 4th, the world champion also complaining of the dust, but otherwise reporting no major problems. Also enjoying a trouble-free morning were the Hyundais. Alistair McRae and co-driver David Senior were 11th after stage 4, while their teammates Kenneth Eriksson and Staffan Parmander were 9th, Eriksson on the eve of his 44th birthday. Marcus GRONHOLM might have been leading the rally, but it wasn't all good news for Peugeot. Francois DELECOUR's problems beginning only a few corners into stage 3.
After 500 meters from the start, we had the fire in the car. After that, I forgotten to shut the bonnet. The bonnet opened suddenly in the stage. We stopped again, and on the second stage, we had also the fire was coming again. Then we lost many minutes because we had also no power steering.
By contrast, his teammate 206 had behaved impeccably, although it did carry the scars of some driver-inflicted over-exuberance. Fortunately, it was only superficial. The service also revealed the reasons for McRae's penalty.
We stopped to change the tyres between the 2 stages, set off again, and went to brake at a water crossing in the road section and had no brakes at all. So we stopped immediately after, checked under the back of the car and saw the brake pipe hanging down, so it was all a little bit of a last-minute affair. Had to take the wheel off, and unfortunately when we took the wheel off, the brake pipes were connected. We set off, went to the stage start arrival, and the brake pedal started to come back again, but we'd already lost 1 minute and 10 seconds in road penalties.
The third stage of the day should have been stage 5, just outside Villa Carlos Paz, but the super special crowd had turned up en masse and there was no way they could run it safely, so the action moved on to stage 6. Which wasn't a good one for the SEAT team.
I think clutch burned, and after auto splash it started slipping a little bit, and we tried to continue very slowly, but we can't continue with the car, and I think we should only push the car some sanction.
And there will be worse news still to come from the Spanish outfit team leader.
We arrived in first water splash, and after the water splash I think I have the clutch a little bit slippery, you know. And I continue like that. I try to be careful, and the clutch come back. And after a few kilometers, I see Tony Master stop, and I imagine he has the same problem. After the water splash, the clutch continue to slip a little bit more. And okay, we try to manage a little bit. And another one, same problem, get worse. And the next after, it's clutch gone completely, and we stop.
And it wasn't just the SEATs that were affected by the Argentinian water splashes, as Richard Burns' Subaru coughed and struggled and dropped him back to 6th place by the end of the day.
Medium right, minus, go 400, come on baby, come on.
Richard, a bit of a frustrating day, a lot of niggling problems for you?
A hell of a lot, yeah. My engineer ran out of paper with all the problems he had to write down. Just lots and lots of little things, but it's combined to mean we haven't had one stage that's been completely clear. So at least we're not a million miles away, and we should be in quite a good position if it stays dry tomorrow.
MAKINEN would return to Cordoba in 5th place, delighting the spectators along the way. Some more than others. Water splashes, however, didn't hold the same delight for Kankkunen. Power steering problems leaving him in 4th place. McRae was 3rd, no doubt cursing the 10-second penalty, but also concerned over a problem on stage 9, the last of the day, which saw the Focus drop a few more precious seconds.
At the moment it's going very well, yeah. It's pretty strong. We lost a bit in the last stage with the problem with the turbo, but apart from that it's been good.
But for Marcus Gronholm, it almost couldn't have gone better. Still an Argentinian novice, he survived the odd scare with the local traffic. And even though he'd slipped to 2nd, he was satisfied with his day's work.
It was not so bad day for us. On the last stage we had some engine problems, but all the other had some small problems also, so we didn't lose so much.
You seem one of the most relaxed out of all of them.
No, I don't know. Maybe. I have to be relaxed.
Setting the fastest time on stages 6, 7 and 9, the leader was now Carlos Sainz. He and Lewis Moyer had moved ahead of Marcus Gronholm and Timo Rautiainen on stage 7, and despite their radio aerial picking up some Argentinian scenery, the Spaniards arrived at the day's final service area with a slender advantage over the Finns. Sainz, though, seemed surprisingly downbeat. Everybody's reporting niggling problems. You seem to have had a pretty trouble-free day.
Reasonable. No problems, the car is working well. I'm a little bit more confident than previous rallies. Everything seems to be working well. The car feels okay.
The Spanish-speaking locals were already in the mood to toast a Sainz victory, but sadly their loss of any sense of reality left its mark on several cars.
40, line is a 4 right, tightens 2 minus half long.
There was a bunch of guys on top of a rock quite high above the road, and they were throwing these great big rocks about sort of twice the size of a house brick straight at the cars. And one landed straight in the middle of our windscreen. It nearly came through. Just incredible. Just how people can do that, I just don't know.
Thankfully, no lasting damage was done, and this was how the leaderboard looked at the end of leg 1. Less than 40 seconds covering the top 6, with Burns hoping for better fortunes on leg 2. So, a double helping of bad luck for the SEAT team, but at least one pair of Spanish eyes is still smiling tonight. Sainz leads Gronholm, with Carlos's teammate Colin McRae in 3rd place. The biggest story of the day, however, has to be the loutish behaviour of those spectators on the final stage. And today, remember, has been Friday. Saturday and Sunday are still to come, and with the weekend, the threat of even bigger crowds.
Leg 2 consisted of 6 stages around Santa Rosa Calamuchita, with a 65-mile run back north for a super special finale in Cordoba. The rain had yet to arrive, and the true rally enthusiasts were back to watch sights blast through the big water splash near Santa Rosa for the first time. The Spaniard, though, was only 5th quickest through that opening stage and immediately lost his lead to Gronholm, but worse was to come on the very next stage. Carlos simply couldn't believe what he'd done.
Well, I was coming just after a crest and too much in the inside, and it was a rail. They have put a guard rail in the inside and I just hit it with the middle of the car.
The Focus was going nowhere, and the overnight leader departed the scene slightly slower than he'd arrived.
SAINZ's misadventure meant Gronholm extended his lead. With his colleague DELECOUR languishing in 31st place, the Peugeot team's hopes now rested squarely on Gronholm's shoulders, and he wasn't disappointing them. The 206, third fastest on both stages 10 and 11. But Colin McRae, now second, had his sights set on snatching the lead. Second fastest on stage 10, the Focus was quickest on 11 to close the gap to a little over 10 seconds. A rejuvenated Burns was also on a charge. Fastest on stage 10, the Subaru moved up to 4th and then inherited 3rd when SAINZ crashed out. The overheating and the other assorted glitches from leg 1 had been cured, and the Impreza was fastest again on 12. For Burns and Robert Reid, the problem now was keeping their enthusiasm in check.
Slight left over crest, 2 crest, 170. The slight left over crest to crest, 170, stand entry, medium left minus.
Arriving at service after stage 12, the leading trio was split by less than 15 seconds, but the Peugeot driver's lack of experience was worrying him.
I have a little bit difficult to remember the stages because I was here 97 with my private car, so it was more or less cruising at that time. So now when you have to really attack, so it's not so easy when I don't remember the stage.
The next stage will be a good telltale because that was the one that Rich was very quick on this morning, and then obviously we can sort of see a bit of a pattern. We're obviously quick on the twisty stuff. That stage was quite fast with a lot of jumps, and it was about the same. This next stage is quite a medium twisting and some very, very fast sections, and I'm sure that's where he's taking time.
If you and Richard carry on like this, we're in for a repeat of Spain, aren't we?
It looks like it at the moment, but I mean, this rally always throws quite a few surprises in at the end.
Burns was now just over 10 seconds behind McRae and closing fast.
It's like when the car's working, it's a lot better, obviously. Yesterday we didn't have a good clear run through anything, and then this morning 2 stages straight off with no problem. And also I think we had a good tyre. We had slightly softer than UHA, and with the rain coming in the middle of the first one, then that's a lot better.
And the rain began to fall harder and harder as the crews headed into stage 13, a rerun of the day's opener. Try, as he always does, Gronholm could only manage 4th fastest. His 4-second lead was looking distinctly fragile. The British duo were closing in, and the Finnish star's lack of Argentinian experience was beginning to tell. But you had to remember that the Peugeot team hadn't returned to Argentina since the mid-80s, so it was still a very impressive showing for the French équipe. McRae, though, wasn't able to take advantage just yet when the Santa Rosa water splash caught him by surprise and blunted his pace. He lost 5.5 seconds to Burns on that stage and 9 more on the next before the Ford crew could start straightening out the damage.
First stage out, there was a Ford very early in the stage that we went through flat out the first time, but I think with the passage of cars, it's made the bump on the other side a bit bigger, and the car landed right on its nose. And obviously did the damage you can see there and pushed the radiators back.
Richard Burns now led the British challenge, and he and Robert Reid were only 3.6 seconds behind Gronholm.
We're now past Colin at the moment, Marcus in front, so I would think it'll be a fair battle between the 3 of us tomorrow.
And you've got a score to settle after Spain?
Always got a score to settle.
But McRae's Focus wasn't the only one to go flying in Santa Rosa.
You're okay.
we come over a water splash, and it was a little jump and bump at the same time, and we came on the front, and we leaned on the front for a while, and we landed, and we came sideways, and then we come in a small ditch, and we rolled just on the side, and we just sat in the car, and the people helped us to get it over again and flat out. The only thing that happened was the windscreen, so it's not so bad, but it was a little bit on the limit.
Solberg would end leg 2 in 7th place, nearly a minute ahead of 8th placed Alistair McRae's Hyundai. The Mitsubishi of Freddie Loix was 6th, while his team leader MAKINEN was 5th, only too aware that a repeat of his 3 Rally Argentina victories now looked all but impossible. Last year's winner Kankkunen would be 4th, hoping that one or more of the leading trio would fall victim to the rally's 3rd and final leg.
Wipe out!
Fastest on all but one of the day's stages, Richard Burns' charge had paid off. He'd moved from 6th place to 1st. A lot of niggles with the car yesterday. Nothing today. You sure you didn't swap it last night?
Yeah, I wish. There was nothing they didn't change last night, I don't think. But everything's been perfect today. The engine, they did some work with the engine, stop it overheating in the very twisty stage that we had this morning, and we'll be using that same thing tomorrow, so it should be cool.
You look almost surprised to be in the position you're in.
No, yeah, maybe, but we see. It's so close to drop to 5th, so it's too early to celebrate anything.
You've been in this position before. Can you stay with Richard and Colin?
We will see. It's not easy, but I try my best.
For sure it's going to be a good fight, but anything can happen. The stages are quite treacherous in places, and we try our best, see what happens. The first one's very twisty, and the twisty ones today we've been quicker than the Subaru, so for sure in the morning, first thing out, we're going to try as hard as possible.
At the end of leg 2, just 12 seconds separated the top 3. Then a 20-second gap to Kankkunen, MAKINEN a further 7.2 adrift, and Loix a distant 6th. So it looks as though we could well be in for a rerun of the final day of the Rally Catalunya tomorrow. But this time it'll be Marcus Grönholm, not Carlos Sainz, who's part 3 of the equation. Today's weather's been fairly lousy, but both Colin McRae and Richard Burns want more of the same for tomorrow. Leg 3, though, promises to be the most difficult of the entire rally, with the final stage perhaps the toughest of them all. It's the one they call El Condor.
The last day consisted of 6 stages based around Mina Clavero to the west of Cordoba. The weather now had some fog added to the mix, but Colin McRae was relaxed and ready to eat into Burns' 12-second advantage, with Gronholm his first target as he set off into the opening stage.
Into 6 left and right, and 4 left, that's right.
Sadly, he wouldn't reach the end of it. Well, he would, but only on the end of a Ford tow rope.
11 kilometres into the stage, Colin reported that he had a problem, engine stopped. Don't know the reason why, the extent of what has actually happened, and so we won't know that until we get the car back or the engine back to Cosworth to see the situation.
While the team packed up, Colin headed for an early bath in Cordoba, and a whole heap of pressure was lifted off his young British rival. The rally was now surely his for the taking. Not knowing McRae was out, he extended his lead over Grönholm by a full 22 seconds. The Finn didn't seem to be sure if he was challenging for the lead or defending from his chasing compatriots, but he was still trying pretty hard. It was now Tommy MAKINEN who led the chase, having got ahead of Kankkunen, and with McRae's demise he moved from 5th to 3rd, but no one was worrying Richard Burns.
Colin's gone out. That takes some of the pressure off you, presumably.
Takes most of the pressure off, yeah. Colin was the one I was thinking about more than Marcus this morning, because, well, I mean, obvious reasons. He's got a bit more experience around these stages. I don't know the reason for Colin's retirement, but yeah, it makes my life a lot easier.
As predicted, the final day was leaving its mark on many of the cars. Kankkunen perhaps the worst affected.
Tommy is 3rd now, but still
it's not so big difference. I try again if I get the car right, if I can catch him.
The worsening weather forced the organisers to shorten stage 20, but confusion as to the exact location of the new start line left drivers and co-drivers more than a little frustrated.
If they could tell us yesterday, so our gravel notes could have checked where is the start. Now we don't know in our notes where we are. Very funny, very nice. We have to...
The thick fog didn't seem to be slowing Burns. Quickest on all of the first 3 stages of the day, the young Englishman survived a scare on stage 20. Luck, it seemed, was now definitely on his side.
So right, Mac.
There was a big rock, and we touched the rock, but the rock moved. The rock rolled away, luckily, so we just into reverse and back onto the road again.
Helped by that incident, GRONHOLM was fastest on stage 20, surviving a rather more bizarre incident, thankfully on one of the less foggy bits.
Vasehidat. 7. Oikein nopea. 7.
Away from the head of the leaderboard, Hyundai brought both their cars to the finish. Alistair McRae in 7th place and Kenneth Eriksson 8th. But it was enough to earn the team their first championship point.
After we had the brake problems this morning, it was a case of there's no way we could catch better. So it was just basically try and drive the car to the finish and get the point for Hyundai.
Solberg finished 6th, earning a single driver's point. Freddie Loitz was 5th, another undramatic run, but one which did little to silence his critics. The top 4 contains no fewer than 3 Finns. Kankinen, 4th, seemingly unable to match the blistering pace of his teammate. 3rd was the Mitsubishi of MAKINEN. 4 useful points, but the Lancer was struggling to catch the leading duo.
The 10 miles of El Condor were at their misty, murky, treacherous worst, and 33 seconds adrift, GRONHOLM finally took a steady approach to consolidate an impressive 2nd place. But even cruising to his 8th World Championship Rally victory, Richard Burns was fastest, 34 seconds quicker than GRONHOLM and 14 faster than the world champion TOMMI MAKINEN, whose 4-year reign is now under serious threat from the English star.
I can only say that these last the 3 days we've had a lot of problems, but yesterday was very good for us. Today, okay, there's been a bit of bad luck for other people, but I mean also you need to be strong, and when these conditions are so slippery and so nasty to drive, nobody enjoys this when it's like this weather, and all you can do is your best and the best the car can do.
Yeah, it's okay, not so tight fight, but Richard was so fast that we couldn't do anything. But I have a small lack of experience here also, and first time with Peugeot here, so it was quite a good result.
Confirmation of the top placings then. Burns winning margin 1 minute and 7 seconds in the end. Peugeot were delighted with GRONHOLM's 2nd place, with Ford relieved just to get one Focus to the finish. Burns' lead in the Drivers' Championship has grown to 14 points, but it's now GRONHOLM in 2nd place and MAKINEN 3rd. SAINZ is still 4th, but no points for Colin McRae, means he shares 5th place with Kankinen. In the series for manufacturers, Subaru's advantage is now 23 points from Ford, with Mitsubishi and Peugeot in joint 3rd place. Confirmation too that Hyundai have finally opened their account. But the day belonged to Richard Burns, Robert Reid and the Subaru team. In front of tens of thousands of cheering fans in Cordoba's football stadium, they could finally celebrate a British crew's first win on the Rally Argentina. So, 10 more points for both Richard Burns and Subaru, and as the season heads towards its halfway point, they must now be odds-on favourites to take both the drivers' and manufacturers' titles. Yet more disappointment, though, for Colin McRae and the Ford team, sadly. No points for Argentina, and Colin's already on his way home. Still, at least Colin and Richard got the weather they were after on this final day. It should be a lot warmer for round 7, as the World Championship returns to Europe. The Acropolis Rally in Greece is in a month's